This is Homeschooled, a podcast for the homeschool skeptics, diehards, the curious, and the discouraged. I'm your host, Jenève Dubé. Hi there, welcome to Homeschooled. I am Jenève, and I'm really glad you're here. I'm stoked to get into some of these topics about homeschooling, and hopefully this podcast can be a way for you to expand your understanding of what homeschooling is. Or maybe if you've been homeschooled, maybe it'll be a way for you to process what you went through as a homeschooler. And I would just love to just have this conversation with all of you. So a little bit about me. My name's Jenève, like I mentioned before. I am 32. I grew up in a family of 5 kids in northern Jersey. So northern New Jersey, sorry. And and it was chaos. No, I was kidding. No, it was being a part of a big family had a lot of awesome benefits, meaning like we partied a lot and had a great time, definitely fought sometimes, but there's just a lot happening. And the reason I want to talk more about my homeschooling experience and also other people's homeschooling experience is to really share how varied different homeschooling styles can be and how you never know. When someone says they're a homeschooler, you may not need to automatically think they're really weird or sheltered or something. So I just wanted to maybe they are. I'll let you decide. But all I'm trying to say is there's a lot of different styles of homeschooling. And based on the questions I get asked, like by adults, even, today, I'm like, man, I really don't think people know too much about what homeschooling is like. So, and I know it's not all like the way I was homeschooled. So this podcast is really intended to bring on just other perspectives and other students who were homeschooled and now adults and are able to reflect on it and share their opinions on it. So yeah, let's jump in. So the top questions I get asked as a homeschooler, probably like the top question that I ever get is, how do you make friends? Or how do you socialize? And I always found this one funny because we socialized like so much, like more than I'd like, I think. Like there was, like my mom signed us up so activities like in town and then like others. Oh my gosh, all of the things. And then we were also part of a few different co-ops over the course of our homeschool experience. And co-ops are really like group learning for homeschool families that happens one or several days a week. It depends on what co-op you go to. And there's a lot of different formats. Sometimes some co-ops focus on specific subjects. Like we went to a and very arts and creative focused co-op for a bit of time, which was really fun. And then you have other co-ops that are smaller that can focus on like more of the sciences and math. And then you have some that are just like general co-ops where you're just learning all together. And that kind of serves as a benchmark for like the curriculum for a lot of families, is kind of going off of the co-op. So it helps add some of that structure when you may not feel comfortable doing that yourself as a parent. So yeah, that's the big way that I think a lot of people socialized. And in North Jersey, specifically, there's a large organization called NJHSA, which is the North Jersey Homeschoolers Association. NJHSA had their own set of activities and things to do for kids, whether it was like a big one was choir and drama class, and there's a few other things. There were specialized choral groups too that NJHSA would host, and I'm sure a bunch of other stuff that I can't recall right now because it's been a while. But yeah, so those are just some ways that we socialized growing up, at least in my family. And yeah, we definitely had a lot of friends. And I do want to point out we did have friends that weren't homeschooled also. A lot of that came from like, going to church on the weekends. We had friends there and we would, make friends like normal humans at a park or in our neighborhood or things like that. So, yeah, we're still, still living life, living out in the world and making friends, taking names, but yeah, so that's a little bit about socializing. But another question I get a lot, is, what were your family's like reasons for homeschooling? And I'd love to cover some of the ones that I know. Well, I know the ones for my family, but I want to also cover some other ones that I've heard from friends of mine and stuff. But for us, it sounds very like kind of woo-woo, but like my parents just wanted to be more involved in my life at a young age. Like I think, and also my mom was very like a fierce advocate for self-expression and creativity. And I think she saw early on that like whatever experience I was having at my public school, like even at a young age, was kind of like starting to kind of dim my light, for lack of a better term, just because I was feeling the need to conform a little bit. And I was okay with it as a kid, but like I think it was hard for my mom to see, like me change my preferences because a kid said something about my lunchbox or something like that. Like it all sounds very fickle when I talk about it out loud, but I think it is an interesting reason. And, I personally, I'm grateful for my homeschooling experience. I think I really benefited from it in a lot of ways. And it was, I thought it was cool. I'm proud to have been homeschooled. That was not the case for everyone in my family and just not everyone in general who's homeschooled. And so I would love for you listeners to hear from those people as well, because what I want to get across is that like there isn't one perfect way to educate your kids, period. Like there just really isn't. I really truly believe that it has to do with your child's learning style and like their lean and how like what environment they learn best in. And that's not always public school for kids, and that's not always homeschooling either. Or there might be ways that you can adjust your homeschooling experience to better suit your kids too. So anyway, all that to say, I think my parents' main reason was for that. I mean, since that moment, like even as kids, when we'd ask like, why are we homeschooled? My dad, I remember in particular, would be like, for character building. And we're like, okay. Like as a kid, you're like, yeah, well, I don't know what that means, like whatever. But I do think it was being homeschooled was character building. I mean, spending that much time with your family members is intense in and of itself. But I think also as a homeschooler, you just have such a variety of experiences. At least we did in my home, and we like were exposed to a lot of different things. Like we regularly communicated with like people of different ages and age groups versus kids in school who are always with their similar age group in classes. Like we're with different ages a lot, even if it's just our siblings or if we're at a co-op. And so being comfortable talking to adults at young ages, like, and just being able to hold conversations with just a lot of different kinds of people, I thought was really a great takeaway of that for me. But yeah, there's so many very, very different reasons that people choose to homeschool. Some of them are like to accelerate learning. Like if you have like a kid that you think is just really excelling, and even in a particular subject, sometimes people will be like, hey, I really want to allow my child to really dive into this subject, go all in and focus on that, while doing like the bare minimum on these other subjects. And homeschooling allows for that. So homeschooling can be this really cool, unique experience that's similar to college, and that you can really focus on one subject that your child is really interested in. So it's like, I would also call that like playing to strengths learning sometimes too. And, or if you just have a really smart kid. I was not that kid, but I know they're out there, and I know homeschooling is great for them. And a lot of the time you can tell when there's a homeschool family that like really prioritizes the academics and really wants to accelerate that and just like kind of hone in on like their grades and just like put them in a really good position for college or for whatever they want to do. And so that is definitely a big one. And another reason that's super valid is like some people, sometimes the school that is available to you, maybe you don't like that school for your kids for whatever reason. And you're like, I could do this at home. So some people do that. Another reason I think is just that parents want to be with their kids more often, you know? I mean, I think the term is becoming more endearing, but like the whole helicopter parent concept, I think, is definitely plays into some, you know, families with homeschooling. And I mean that in a loving way, but I do think that there's parents that just really want to be a part of every aspect of their kids' lives. And I think that that's really beautiful in a lot of ways. And that's how they want to do it. So more power to them. I also want to point out an important note here, is that I think homeschooling is really a privilege for a lot of families, especially when you have when you're able for one parent to like be the main breadwinner and then the other parent can maybe stay home and do the majority of the teaching. That isn't always possible for a lot of families. So I just want to point that out too, because that's another, like, I don't know. I think it's important to say that, because the more, all I'm hearing in my head is this opinion that like homeschooling's the best. Homeschooling's the best way to do it. And it's like, that is not an option for a lot of people. So it can really suck as a parent to hear that and be like, man, like, am I like not giving my kids like the best education I could just because I don't have like the financial flexibility, or, you know, maybe you're a single parent, or like there's so many reasons why like that's not an option. And I just want to say that like it's okay. And it's okay to meet your kids where they're at and do what you're able to as a parent. And I don't think that homeschooling is for everyone, even if you can do it. I don't know that it's for everyone. So if you're hearing that messaging that like homeschooling is like the best thing ever, I would just like take that with a grain of salt, because it's just like anything. People have different experiences in it, and yeah. You're giving your child the most you can. And sometimes that is just, you know, guiding them through a public or private school education, and doing what you can. So just want to call that out. Yeah. If you haven't caught it yet, I'm pretty, man, how do I say this? I really would love to remove the shame around like the specific way that you choose to educate your kids. And you might be wondering, like, what are you talking about, Jenève? I don't ever feel that. The reason I'm bringing this up is because the type of like homeschool circles that my family was around were predominantly people that were choosing to homeschool for like religious-ish reasons. And there was some pretty heavy messaging, like if you want to like raise your kids like God's way or in a godly way, then like homeschooling is like the best way to do that, or the only way to do that. I've even heard things like that, which is just like, drives me crazy. It really drives me crazy. And the reason it drives me crazy is it's so much pressure, and parents have enough pressure, I think personally, and like to make that the pinnacle of like how to raise your children in the way they should go, you know, for those of you that know that Bible verse, is just like, it's so heavy, and it's too much, and it's honestly not, I might piss some people off, but like, it's not biblical. Like, there's nothing in the Bible that says you have to homeschool your kids. I just want to like make that really clear. Yeah, like I said before, I'm like, I think it is a privilege. I personally, I thought it was great. So I'm not trying to say that like, you know, homeschooling's whatever, it doesn't matter, or it's not that great. Like, it can be great and wonderful, but the tight messaging with like Christianity and like raising people in the way raising your kids right, or the godly way, being like only homeschool focused, I just think is really harmful. And I saw that firsthand, like in my family. I hope this isn't getting too real, but I watched my mom really put a lot of pressure on herself and people who I think thought they were being encouraging. It's the kind of encouraging where it's like, you can keep going because this is this is what you need to do, so you got this. Or like, you know, I really think my mom was like at her limit in a lot of ways. Oh man, I just felt like as a kid, I almost, looking back, I'm like, man, I wish someone would just say to my mom, like, it's okay for you to put one of your kids in school, or several of them, or like, it's okay if you don't want to do this homeschooling thing anymore. Like, that would be okay. And I felt like the messaging wasn't that. It was always like, well, we're here for you and we can help you get through it, because this is the best way to this is the best way to teach your kids, and this is the best thing you can do for them as a parent. And it was just like all this like built up pressure that reaches a tipping point ultimately. And it takes a toll on your family. And I think you have to make a decision as a parent, like when do you prioritize like your own mental wellness and mental health so that you can show up for your kids in that way, you know? And yeah, sure, sometimes things are hard sometimes, and sometimes you just need to push through it, and you can find support, and there is support out there for you if you're a homeschool parent and you want to keep homeschooling and you just need help. Like, there's definitely those things out there. But I also just think there should be a more open conversation about the changing of your mind as a parent, and like not homeschooling anymore. And I think, yeah, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but yeah, it's really important to me. I don't think my mom had the tools that she could have had when it came to her mental wellness and like caring for all of us. And it was a lot, and I watched it really wear her down sometimes. Yeah. So, and I don't want that for other people, and I didn't want that for my mom. And yeah, it's just hard to watch. Another thing on that note in particular, I think an interesting element about homeschooling and like the choice to homeschool is that it's like that joint decision. You know, if you're in a two-parent home, like, you're typically, hopefully, making that decision together. But I've also seen it be like highly, highly encouraged by the dad. And I think it's just funny because the dad isn't always the one doing the teaching. It's sorry, this is a lot of stuff, but like, these are elements of homeschooling that I do want to like get. This is the kind of stuff I would love to get into more, because I want people to understand the weight of the choice of homeschooling before you jump into it, because it's not all rainbows and butterflies and like this beautiful little house on the prairie experience where all of your family members love each other and you're learning together and exploring, and then you all get into Ivy League colleges and then have the best job. Like, it's like, I'm noticing lately whenever I hear or talk about homeschooling, it comes from this like almost, the pendulum swung. It went from like, that's super weird, to like, wow, that would be amazing. Like, it would be amazing if I could homeschool my kids, because that would just be lovely, because I just would want to spend all this time with them. And I'm just like, I'm like, yeah, totally. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer about homeschooling. Like, I know a lot of my cynicism is coming out right now, but the reason it's coming out is because I want the conversation to be more frank about the toll that homeschooling can take on a family, especially a large family. On one or both of the parents. And that affects your kids ultimately. Like, I think people forget that sometimes. It's like, oh, like, I'll just get through it. But like, if you're on like your last thread as a parent and you don't have anything else to give after you've been like educating and caring for and taking care of your kids like all day 24/7, you got to make a change, because you need to take care of yourself in order to take care of your kids, period. I don't care how you're educating. Like, you need to be nurturing yourself as much as you can, and asking for that support. And that's just, it's hard. So anyway, to back to like removing shame. So that's one aspect of it. Like, I want to definitely remove the shame from like if you chose to homeschool, or if you're like iffy about homeschooling and you still are in those circles that are like, homeschooling's great, I love it, it's the best, just not feeling bad for not homeschooling, and then also not feeling bad if like you want to quit, you're a parent and you want to quit homeschooling, you can't do it anymore, you're just spent, like just being okay with shifting gears. I also think that a lot could be changed about how some homeschool communities view kids that go to public school. Like conversely, just like sometimes like, oh man. And I think this is amplified. This is definitely amplified when you're in these more like more religious circles. It's kind of like, okay, like we're protected over here, but if like a kid goes to public or private school, ooh, they're like going to be like exposed to all these terrible things. Like I just had this weird concept, and it wasn't from my family. Like it really wasn't. It was just from like our community that we were in. Sometimes it was just like this idea that like it's dangerous out there, and it's just like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, and also this opinion that like, again, this is the dark side of the always hearing like homeschooling's the best, homeschooling's the best. I'm like, I have friends that went to public school that loved it, and did find like joy and fulfillment in like certain subjects. And again, like I keep wanting to say this because there's unpleasant public school experience, just like there's unpleasant private school experiences. And then there's awesome ones too. And there's hybrid schools and all kinds of different versions of being educated. And there's people out there that really loved that and really got a lot out of it. So I just want to like shout from the rooftops, like, can we please stop saying that like everyone should do one of these things? I think the beauty of having all of these options available to us is that you do get to figure out what works best for your kid. And that is what I like about homeschooling. And even just like a posture when you're a parent and you're making this decision is figure out how your child learns. Like learn them so you can help them make choices for their education that support them. Like talk about being a good parent, like figure out what is going to be best for them, how they're going to best absorb information. And that looks different. Even I was going to say family to family, but it looks different kid to kid that you have. I think for those of you that are parents listening, you know what's up when it comes to that. And it's the same with education. It's just like not everyone is going to be learning the same in your family. And what worked with one kid is not going to work with the next. So yeah, anyway. I hope this gave you an idea of the kind of stuff we'll be covering in this podcast. Dove into a few intense topics there, but really trying to just start the conversation and get the word out and make this a safe space to talk about the hard things when it comes to homeschooling. And I hope you continue to listen, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks. Hey, thanks for listening. If you found this episode helpful or inspiring or not, I'd love to hear about it. Email me at thehomeschoolpod@gmail.com. Are you interested in being a guest? Let's chat. Apply today at www.solo.to/homeschooled to complete a quick online application. Have a great day. Don't forget to drink your water, and I'll talk to you soon.